Our next speaker is talking about how much better could Lightning be. It's Fabrice from Async.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay, right, good morning. So the talk is going to be how much better Lightning could be, and especially from a UX point of view. So I will also start with a story. Suppose you travel back in time and it's 4 or 5 years ago and you want to introduce people to Bitcoin. So what do? You could start explaining how Bitcoin works and cryptocurrency and everything, and it's complex. And one of the really nice things you could do at the time was, okay, if you want to show what Bitcoin is and how it works, you get people to install a wallet, anyone, and you send them a few Bitcoins. And they can see that, okay, they've received something. It really shows them how it works, even if they don't really understand the inner workings of it. And you ask them to send it back to you. And it's a very cool way of introducing people to Bitcoin, even if they don't understand and don't want to understand the technical issues, Bitcoins. And if you start, eventually you'll have to start about how do I save my funds? How do I back up my funds? And it's very easy. You have 12 words, just write them down, store them safely, and it's all you need, basically. You can introduce people to Bitcoin in just a few minutes and explain a lot of things, do a demo, and it's very fluid. It takes a few minutes, and you could do it on stage. People did it on stage a few years ago. You have to trust the network and the wallets and everything, but it's really a good demo. So now, 5 years later, how do you demo Lightning? You ask people to install a Lightning wallet, okay? You send them Bitcoin, and you tell them you need to open a channel, but if people don't really know about Bitcoin or Lightning, it's a bit tricky. What's a channel? How do I open a channel? Where do I go? They open a channel and they say, okay, can I use it now? And you say, no, you have to wait until it's confirmed. And there goes your live demo. You can't do this live on stage because it's going to take like at least 30 minutes, or maybe even more. And they send you money over Lightning. And this is really awesome because it's instant, cheap micropayments, and that there's really a wow effect. But they can't send it back to you because they need inbound liquidity first, and it's a bit tricky to explain. Basically, you tell them you need someone to open a channel back to you. And how do I do that in practice? And if you start talking about backups, very quickly it becomes a bit hard because backups in Lightning, and I guess everyone knows that, is tricky to get right. Just a static backup of your seed is not enough. You need dynamic information, and if you are late or if you lose information, you could lose money. So in a nutshell, there are UX problems with Lightning. So this is a copy of a very old slide about NoSQL databases 10 years ago, when NoSQL databases were all the rage, and new developers were saying, NoSQL is so much better than relational databases. And more experienced people were saying, no, they're not, and no one was listening to them. It's a bit like altcoins 2 years ago, when everyone was kind of left and right with new altcoins with DAG-based, blah, 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 shared something so much better than Bitcoin, and everyone was saying, no, that it's not, and no one was listening. It's the same story. So can we have the same simple, fluid UX we have with Bitcoin and keep the Lightning awesomeness? How much can we improve Lightning, and what does it mean? Where is the friction? Is it in the protocol? Is it in the upper layers, implementations? What can we do? And a lot of UX issues with Lightning are linked to how the protocol is designed. So right now, the channels are single-funded. It means all the money when you open the channel is on one side, so you can send, but you cannot receive. There's work on this, but that's how that's how you set up channels for the moment. There's a concept of penalty transactions. This is how you make sure that only the last state of your Lightning wallet can be used. So it's good because it punishes people who try to use old states, but it makes backups really tricky because if you are trying to restore an old backup, you may lose money. And as far as I know, most cheating attempts that have been detected on the Lightning Network were not people actually trying to cheat. They were people who messed up with their backups and used old ones and got punished. It also means that you need to have, if you can't watch your channels yourself and detect cheating attempts, you have to delegate this watching to watchtowers, and they're hard to implement because right now you need to store an ever-growing amount of data. Basically, you need to store new data every time the state changes, and it's really hard to have good incentives for that. The payments are hash-based today. Basically, you pay against the pre-image of a hash. It works very well, and it's enforceable with the Bitcoin scripts we have today, but it's really hard to do fancy things with that because you can't combine pre-images and get the same combination in hashes, obviously. If we were to use points and secret keys or signatures, we could do more interesting stuff, but it's not possible yet. And there's also source routing. So the way Lightning works today, the sender creates the route. The sender has to decide where the payment will go through, which means it's good for privacy, but it also means that to send a payment, you need to have a good enough view of the network, which could be a problem if you're offline most of the time, and mobile wallets will be offline most of the time. So if you start your mobile wallet, you need to partially synchronize your view of the network. If it's not up to date, you may not find the routes, or you may try to read payments with wrong information, and it will fail. Some of these issues are not really linked to the protocol, but more to the way it's been deployed so far. Like there are capacity issues. If you want to pay for something that is a bit expensive, it may fail today because channels are small. This is something that will improve over time, and there's a nice solution which is AMP, which is you split payments in small shards, and you pay and you aggregate these payments at the destination. And there are reliability issues. So this also is something that is getting much better, that the network is much more reliable than it was 1 year ago, but there are still issues, and this could be improved. I think Rusty mentioned it a few minutes ago. You could start probing more aggressively to detect faulty nodes, and you will start soon banning peers and nodes that are not reliable. And there are issues that could or should be hidden from users, like how do you present a unified payment experience? How do you present a unified balance? Do users really need to know what is on-chain, what is off-chain? Do they need to know about channels and channel management? But for this, there is no yet a generic solution. You have to make trade-offs. You have to make choices. Inbound liquidity means, for example, that you need to lock funds. Zero-count channel, turbo channels, means that someone has to take chances, because if the funding transaction doesn't confirm your channel is gone, if it's been used, well, maybe someone is losing money. So you need to make trade-offs. And many of these UX improvements will require protocol-level changes. For example, AMP, atomic multipath payments, tripling, which is a way of adding some packet switching back into the way routing is done on Lightning, switching from pre-image hash-based to signature or secret key points verification for payments. So this will take time. But there are also ways to extend Lightning with custom features. It's always been possible the way the protocol was designed, but it was a bit ugly and clumsy. And it's much better now. And basically, if two nodes agree on a set of custom features, they can start using them. It has no impact on the rest of the network, as long as you comply with basic Lightning rules. And now that the protocol has been modified to include support for TLV and other stuff, it's much cleaner to add custom extensions to the Lightning protocol. And this is what we did for our UX experiments. So yesterday we tweeted a video of our new wallet, which we call Phoenix, and it's not just an experiment. It's something we intend to ship within a few weeks, an actual product. But basically, we wanted to see how much we could change Lightning UX without having to make really bad trade-off, without having to require trust in us, without having to become custodial. And what is the friction with the current protocol? What we can change just on the application side, and what needs to be changed at the protocol level. So we've been developing 2 different products for more than 2 years now. We have a wallet, Eclair Mobile. Is anyone using Eclair Mobile? Yeah, good on you. Thank you. And it's an actual Lightning node. It's not a custodial node. It's not a remote control for something that runs in a cloud or at home. It's an actual Lightning node. It's widely used, and it doesn't try to hide anything about how Lightning works. You need to know about off-chain and on-chain balance. You need to open channels manually. You need to take care of your channels. You can set custom fees for your closing transactions. So it's highly technical. It's really good. I really like it. But a lot of the feedback we got from users of Eclair is, why do I need to worry about what is on-chain, what is off-chain? The UX is a bit technical. And we also run big nodes on Lightning, so we see a lot we relay a lot of payments. And so we also get feedback from users when payments fails or when they have issues with capacity. And since it's really hard to know where the problem comes from in Lightning, it's really hard to diagnose which nodes didn't do its job the way Lightning is designed today. Very often, whenever there's a problem, people ask us what's wrong, because they're end users and all they know is that they couldn't send a payment. So we got lots of feedbacks on UX and the problems that users actually see when trying to use Lightning. So the pain points with Lightning is, first, it's onboarding. How do I open channels when I don't have Bitcoins? Why do I need to wait? Can I have something that is usable straight away? How do I get inbound liquidity, which is a common complaint? The complexity of the old Lightning UX, on-chain, off-chain. Do users really need to know that some of their funds are on-chain, some are off-chain? And if you start explaining, okay, you need to know because that's how Lightning works, and maybe you're looking at the wrong target. People really shouldn't know about this. Channel management. Why do people need to manage their channels manually? What are there things you can do to automate the process of opening channels without making bad trade-offs? And another issue is stuck payments. We don't have a fix for this, but basically, if you try to pay something on Lightning and your payment is stuck, you can't retry because your payment may eventually get unstuck. So you're taking a chance of paying for things twice or several times. And there's an issue with backups. It's an issue, I guess, with every Lightning wallet today. Backups are hard to get right. Some users don't really understand why your seed is not enough to restore your channels, and it's something that could be improved. So working within the limits of the current Lightning protocol, how could we get instant channels? Instant as in you can send and receive money within a few minutes when you start using your wallet. How can I display a unified on-chain, off-chain balance? How can I have a unified payment experience? I want to pay with Bitcoin. I don't care if it's Lightning or on-chain. And how do you have simple, transparent backups where your seed is enough to restore everything, including live channels? And so what we did is, Lightning is very different from Bitcoin because there's no global consensus. It's a routing protocol, which means the dialogue that takes place between two peers is not seen by the others and has no impact on the rest of the network. And as I mentioned, there's some room for extensions today in Lightning messages. You can add fields that can be ignored by nodes that don't understand them. And there are existing fields in some of the Lightning messages, for example, in in the onion or in the payment request that you can use for other things. For example, last year we did a demo of offline Lightning vending machines where the vending machine is not connected to the internet, and yet it can still understand that you've paid with Lightning, and it can give you the goods you paid for by tricking something inside one of these Lightning messages. So there are things you can do with the protocol today with extensions that you can decide to have always on, and they will just be ignored by peers who don't understand them. Or you can decide, okay, with this specific peer, I will negotiate extra features that are not really part of the protocol, but are piggybacked on existing Lightning messages. So what we did with Phoenix is we created zero-conf channels, turbo channels. They're channels you can use as soon as they're created. So which means there's a slice, there's a window where there's a risk that the channel funding transaction can be double spent. So there's a small risk. We have on-demand channels. Basically, you can route to a channel that doesn't exist. If you start Phoenix and if you want to receive funds, you don't have anything. You don't have channels, you don't have funds. You display an actual Lightning payment request, exactly the one that was displayed by Rusty a few minutes ago. It's a real payment request. It has not been tweaked. Any wallet, Lightning wallet can pay it. But when the last node sees that request, it knows that the channel ID is not an actual channel ID. It's a hint to create an on-demand new channel. So what we do is before we forward the last packet, we create the channel on demand, and then we forward the payments, and the pay image is sent back. So it's a way of creating channels on the fly and routing to things that don't exist yet on the network. And it gives you instantly usable channels in both directions. You can send and you can receive. What we also did was to use the Lightning messages to carry backups. Basically, you add extensions to Lightning messages, and the extensions is an encrypted blob that is your channel backup. And when you connect to your peer, you get it back from them, which means you don't have to rely on local storage or Google Drive. You should, because you still need to take care of your own backups. But if you lose everything, you can still restore your channels. Obviously, then you need to trust the peer you were connected to send you the encrypted backup back. But it's a way of restoring live channels, even if you've lost absolutely everything. So there are trade-offs we made for zero-conf channels. It works because you're connected to our node. The way it works is we'll display your wallet will display a payment request. We'll understand that it's for something that doesn't exist yet. We'll create the channel on demand, and then you can use it in both directions. For the unified payment UX, we use swaps. So swaps is trading a Bitcoin on-chain transaction for Lightning payments by using the same hash and pre-image in both the Lightning transaction and the Bitcoin transaction. So we do swaps in and out. There is currently a level of trust you have to have in us. This is something that is going to be removed before we release the app, but today one of the limitations of the demo, which is why it's not released, is there are things that are trusted, but it's going away. And the backups, everyone had the same idea at different times. How do I use Lightning to encrypt backups? So it's what I say. We use extensions to specific Lightning messages. That's we get you your backup backs from your peer encrypted, you decrypt it, you restore it, and you're back where you were before. You lose your payment history though, because this is not something you can save, but you still get your live channels back. And there's also something else. I mentioned that to pay on Lightning, you need to have a good enough view of the network. It's not true anymore, because there's an extension to the protocol that is being spec'd right now. It's called Trampoline, where basically you can delegate part of the pathfinding to a node without losing privacy. So right now it is still trustless because we're the only Trampoline node, so obviously we're the first and last node on the route. But as soon as other Trampoline nodes are deployed, the privacy issue will go away, and this is really a nice improvement on how to find paths on Lightning for mobile wallets or light wallets are offline most of the time. We won't have time for questions, so the conclusion for this is a lot can be done to improve Lightning UX. A lot can be done, but it requires some protocol level changes. All cannot be implemented just at the application level. We need to change things at the protocol level. But this can be done without having to use non-custodial wallets. And it's very important because if we give up on non-custodial at the protocol level, we're not going to get it back. Likewise, if we give up on being able to deploy light mobile wallets at the protocol level, it's not coming back later, which is why we pushed really hard for changes in the protocol that make it possible to run nodes on a mobile wallet. And just one last word about custodial wallets. It's much easier to develop custodial wallets. Basically, it's just an API. You don't have to deal with all the tricks we had to implement. But there are limitations to what you can do with custodial. The first one is, eventually, if it works, and if it's widely used, and this is what we all want for Bitcoin and Lightning, you're going to have KYC regulation issues. You will not be able to run largely used custodial services without having to deal with KYC, and we don't want to deal with KYC. And the second one is, in the long run, we need to be able to offer non-custodial services. If it turns out that most services are custodial, then there's a problem for the value proposition of Bitcoin, which is not that. So we need to work really hard on making these kind of things possible with non-custodial wallets, even though they bring a really good UX, they're easy to use, and still, since Lightning and Bitcoin are open protocols, a custodial wallet can send to any Bitcoin address or pay any Lightning invoice. So they are a way to get users to onboard, but we also need to look at other solutions, which is why we didn't want to go the custodial route way.